You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. Time to rock out with a little bit of volatility viewing. Yes, it is time for Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the optionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which so many people are binging. Speaking of the network, let me just hit on it again. I know VolViews has a devoted contingent. We hear from you folks all the time, all over the world, Australia, Germany, Middle East, you name it. You folks love VolViews. I get it. We love it. We love that you love VolViews. It's a symbiotic relationship. But a lot of you were hitting us up saying, hey, where's the show? Because it looked like there was an issue on Apple, specifically with the VolViews feed specifically last week. So it went up a day or two late after the show goes up. And people hit us up, where's the show? Where's the show? You guys know, I say it every week. There is a network feed. Nearly a dozen shows on that one. Just switch to that one. That one had the show right away. It has every other show we're doing, including the brand new show, the Futures Rundown. So I know particularly people in the VolView space, people who have been on this show multiple times were hitting me up, who should know better, saying, where's the show? So I'm speaking to you. You know who you are. So yeah, just switch to the network feed, the Options Insider Radio Network feed. Wherever you get this show, it's there, I guarantee you. And there's nearly a dozen shows on it right now waiting for you every week pretty much. So go check it out. Like nearly 5,000 episodes on it last I checked. So it's got some goodness for you over there. So make sure you get the full feed. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you want to come back for a little bit of fun after VolViews with Options Oddities. Only one place to go. The optionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. Oddity's been a banger of late. SVIX, VIX, all kinds of things tearing it up on Oddity. Should be a fun one. Look forward to seeing you there as we see who's joining us on the old program today. First, let's go out to the hinterlands of Chicago, I believe known as Hinsdale, where we are joined once again by the once future and present Mr. Dr. VIX, who turned down lunch with, dare I say it, an options luminary / ne'er-do-well. Just to join us on the show.
No, stop the name dropping. Stop the name dropping.
I didn't say any names.
I know you didn't, but it's just all the love for you right here. You're my favorite. That's all I got to say.
Just saying, Russell, he earned himself some points. He earned himself some brownie points today. And when I tell the super producer, she's going to love you even more. So there you go.
Yeah, and if I ever win an award, that's who I actually would. I want the producer to give me an award.
She should give out awards.
Because she does exist, people. I swear. I've met her twice in 20 years.
I would get
there.
I would get
so there. Sorry, I'm going to be fun and punchy today, which always makes. I'll probably drop an F-bomb and get beaten up in the chat at some point today. So things are going well out here in the western suburbs of Chicago after driving overnight to get back here from IU. So I'm in time for the program and totally focused on the volatility markets for you guys today. So there we go. I'm going to get all positive today.
The super producer is already telling me she wants to give you an award herself. So there you go. Bam. There you go.
There you go.
It's a symbiotic love fest here on the old program as we go out now to the dark and stormy shores of Maine, where we are joined once again by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. Mr. Rock Lobster, welcome back to the show, sir.
It is grand to be back here in Volatility Land. Did I do the show on Friday? No, Mark did it last Friday or the Friday before. So, yes, it is grand to be back here. Kind of a interesting day here for volatility. We have interest today.
We got some interest, so let's get to it. A little bit of the old volatility review.
It's time to break down the latest developments in the volatility trading world. It's time for the Volatility Review.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Volatility Review, the portion of the show where we do just that. We break down the week that was, and indeed still is, from about trading and trending and analysis and all sorts of fun perspectives. And I guess if I had to encapsulate the week in vol, as we are wont to do here on this program, I would pretty much say we're up and then we're right back down. That's pretty much the story of vol over the last couple of weeks. Coming into the show this week, markets once again green. We saw some struggle earlier in the week. The narrative earlier in the week was, of course, whipsawing all over the place. Start the day red, and usually end the day green. Last couple of sessions, we've been firmly in the green, and that is the case again today. Coming in to start the show, S&P up about 0.2%, NASDAQ up about 0.75%, Dow up 0.75%, and you know what? Just for fun, we never have it here on the rundown, but let's pull it up anyway. Let's go out to small caps. Oh, small caps, a bit of a banger, up 2.5% as well. So spoiler alert, a lot of green on the old screen out there today, which brings us to my point from earlier. Vol last week on the show was up about 7.5 points. VIX cash was up exactly 7.5 points when we kicked off the show last week. This week, right back down 7 points. So we're up and we're down again. Again, there's a theme to vol over the last couple of weeks. That's it pretty much. 16.5 in VIX cash as we kicked off the show. And as the show has started, it's already lower, about a 1640 already. So that vol erosion kicking in. I'm not going to get mad at it. We'll talk about that on options oddities a little bit later, but not angry at all. VVIX, same deal, at 100 even as we're kicking off the show. So last week on the show, it was up 33 points from the week before. And this week, down right back 28. So there it is, the same theme. We're up and we're down again, pretty much net evening out over the last couple of weeks out here. So that's our theme. Let's go out to the once and future Dr. VIX as well. Mr. Dr. VIX, do you agree with that theme, sir? Kind of up and then right back down again in the vol space.
You know, Mark Sebastian, God love him. He loves to break into song every once in a while during presentations. I think it's his nervous tick. And I had myself muted, thank God, but I started singing Roller Coaster. Because that's really there. I did my Mark Sebastian. Because that's really kind of what it feels like. We're just up and down. I do think that, and again, I don't think this is a financial market endorsement, but I think it's more of a lowering of the unexpected any unexpected outcome in early November around the election. I think the markets are starting to settle in to certainty, not necessarily that they're going to like President Harris, but I think the markets are pretty much settling in that the presidential election is going to be decisive. People aren't going to be able to challenge it. And for better or worse, we're going to be able to move forward. I generally try to veer away from politics, but I really do think that is what's going on in the markets right now. I mean, we're between earnings, and we've got pretty much guidance as to what's going to happen next week with respect to the Fed. It looks like it's going to be 50 basis points, and the stock market has come to peace with that. But I really do believe that the volatility, this round trip that we've experienced, is just certainty as to how this election's going to go.
You know, They say, past its prologue. Anyone who thinks I think they have any handle, even if polls are leaning a certain way. I mean, how many times have we seen that, right? It wasn't that long ago. What was it? A week before the election back in 2016, Hillary had it in the bag.
Oh, yeah.
The email.
Oh, yeah. So, I'm just saying where we're at right now. So
remember that
if that changes, everything will change.
The telephone poll, I think the weekend before the Brexit vote. Oh my God, this thing's dead. No one's going to vote for this. They crushed Vol going into that. So there's a long history of people underselling risk in this environment. I think anyone knows exit polls the day of the election, they can't tell who's winning oftentimes. So go back to Kerry Bush, see who they thought was winning early on election day that day. The Kerry team.
Congratulations, President Kerry.
Exactly. The Kerry team was gloating out of the gate like crazy. So the notion that we can't tell on the day of when we have actual votes, let alone still a couple of months out, to me is just kind of ludicrous. But hey, folks, crush the vol if you want. If that's your deal. If you want to look at a Brexit poll or phone poll and crush the vol, hey, you be you at the end of the day. We're not going to judge. I'm just giving you a little bit of context for maybe you want to be a little bit judicious. Let's go out there, Mr. Rock Lobster. Same thought for you. Do you agree with that ultimate narrative at the end of the day? Vol went up and right back down, or as Mr. Dr. VIX put it, a bit of a roller coaster this week.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it was a roller coaster. We had some very. When did we have that kind of big sell-off day?
Talking about August 5th or after that?
No, just this week, right? Didn't we have that huge candle day? Didn't we? Tuesday,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Tuesday or Wednesday, wasn't it?
And the debate was Tuesday night, right? Or was the big candle? No, the big candle day was Wednesday.
Yeah, that was the CPI.
Yeah. But the debate was Tuesday night.
Right.
So I thought okay, so the CPI number came in. It wasn't flying. I guess it's aiming toward 2%. Month over month was a little higher, but I would say it came in sort of expected. But why did we have the? What was it? We had a 300-point range in SVIX that day. Which could very well have been like a light debate expectations, So yeah, definitely. I think that the pretty easily, but then it doesn't really hold. So we'll see how all that goes. But yeah, Again, how it all shakes out is anybody's guess. I would notice. I guess this is the next part, but it seems like some of that premium in October feels like that October Nova is starting to lighten up a little bit. The spread. Yeah. So, I as far as from a vol point of view, I mean, vol is priced where we're trading. I mean, realized vol's in the 18s. We're still having some pretty large swings. So VIX being where it is at 1630 is totally reasonable in my mind. So I don't, as far as pricing that way goes, I think it's okay. But as far as the election goes, I think, and I'll agree with Russell, there's it appears that the market is somewhat more accepting of, I think they were pretty happy that it was going to be Donald v. Biden. And then when it was Trump v. Harris, everybody freaked out a little bit. And now it seems after the debate, I feel like they're a little less freaked out. Again, just reading the market tea leaves, as it were. How it plays out is anybody's guess when people actually have to vote. But from a vol point of view, I would guess the election is becoming less of an issue to volatility than it was maybe right after Biden left and Harris came in. So that's the way I would agree with Russell on that. Just watching how the numbers have sort of shifted and come in a little bit. But I think the bigger question is, what do we have coming next week because we have the FOMC, right? So they're going to say how much they're going to cut, if they're going to cut, but the ECB sort of has already, I think, as they harmonize these central bankers, it's kind of freaks me out, like how they all want to move in cahoots together, because I feel like we're always 1 week closer to some electric central currency where they can just turn off all your money if they don't like you, which is a little bit freaky. But I'll take my tinfoil hat off for a few minutes. But again, I think VIX is kind of fairly priced relative to what we've been doing. I mean, the last month of trade has been it's been pretty volatile. You can't get around it. So it's an outlier for 2024, basically August and the first 2 weeks of September. So the question is, do we have more of that going into the election or less? And I think that's a tough one to answer right now. At least I can't answer it.
You can't answer it right now, sir? What kind of
I cannot.
Kind of crystal ball do you have, listeners? Again, I'll just tell you, for all those looking at election analysis, just go back, look up Kerry Bush back, and then look up some videos from the first half of the day when the Kerry team was just out there making the rounds, gloating like crazy. I mean, y'all know how it turned out. So again, just a little bit of context for everyone out there who's either celebrating or bemoaning their fact that their candidate is supposedly winning or losing. We know nothing yet. All right, let's keep on rolling. What we do know is what's going on out there on the vol surface. And once again, our narrative persists throughout this week. The roller coaster. Vol's up, vol's down, and we're right back down again this week. The SEP future, it was up about 5.5, 5 3/4 points last week. This week, down 5 again. So we're up, we're right back down. I'm sure if I re-racked it right now, I'll probably be down about 5 1/4, maybe even 5.5. So pretty much almost erasing exactly everything we gained last week. October, pretty much the same deal. It was up about 3.8 points last week. This week, down about 3.3. I'm sure, again, if I re-racked that, probably down a little bit more than that right now. So we're up and we're right back down again, at least so far this week. Mr. Rhoads, anything catching your eye in the roller coaster that is the vol surface this week?
Yeah, heck yeah. And and Andrew touched on it for just a second there. October is only 20 cents higher than November. There it is, right there.
There it is.
Yeah.
There's your lunch, your lunch date is calling you saying, where are you?
I know. Where are we at? Yeah, I mean, October and believe it or not, I mean, I know we're going to re-up talking about my buddy V stocks a bit again in the near future, but the October V stocks is below November for the first time. And they had been mirroring each other. And my whole, 5-10 minutes ago talking about the election, it really stems from what I've seen in the curve as opposed to what VIX is doing by itself. So, if you think we're going to get, do they always refer to it as some sort of an October surprise? If you think we're going to get an October surprise, maybe, and it's going to happen in early October, buy the October and sell November right now.
I mean, Reagan
it's 15 cents.
Reagan kind of codified it right now. Now we all expect it. So you want to surprise everybody, surprise them now. Surprise them in September. There's no such thing as a September surprise, so bam.
Well, not until I put the trade on.
Yeah, there we go. I'm sorry.
There you go. All right.
Editors, delete that. You folks in the live stream, just ignore what I just said. Wait until Russell has the trade on. I did this yesterday. I was on Option Block, and we were talking about a trade, and I tried to put it in while I was hosting. And it was just a simple vertical. I ended up putting in as like a crazy diagonal with the wrong one. I was like, why is this price so nonsense? I was like, oh, yeah, that's why. So that's why I try not to put on trades when I'm in the middle of hosting a show. Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you, sir. What's catching your eye out there in the surface? And are you too intrigued by the prospects for October, sir?
Well, I am intrigued by the prospects. I am watching vol getting annihilated today. Nothing like owning some VXX puts. Showing my students this kind of cool trade where you buy some VXX puts and then you buy VXX on a ratio and, it all works out when the vol collapses, when VXX collapses, and all of a sudden you're really short and you look like a genius. And then the day after that, I put that trade on, VXX volatility just craters. So my puts have moved about a nickel and VXX is down $2. So just to let everybody know, if you think you're a smarty pants, the market will come in and kick you in the pants. So huge drop in short-term vol today. Just enormous drop. So to me, this is like panic premium going out of the market super fast. So while the VIX curve is saying one thing, right, the September contract is coming off. And again, like I agree with like Russell, I think that OCNOV is starting to stabilize a little bit. And now we're stuck, with this huge October premium, and VIX is down to 16, and it's going to look damn normal really fast. Because I'm looking at my sheet here, and we're almost going to be back into we're very close to a regular, like what I would call like almost a regular contango. Not quite there yet, but the OC is only 13 cents away. So in my whole grand plan, of course, was, as I guess we'll get into the vol products later, but, as this OCNOV should normalize somewhat, which means it should drive October future down more. And the vol products, the long vol products are all long bulk October futures, almost everything, right? As they shift in. I think the ratio right now is probably 90%, 89.4, right? So 89.47%. So they're all loaded up on the future trading 18. If the Fed gives everybody what they want, maybe 25 basis points, like, okay, where does vol go after that? We'll ignore the deficit being $1 trillion, and we'll ignore the possibility of recession because everybody's like, I don't care about that. That puts a lot of weight. And the grand thesis was that VXX and the long vol products would get smoked, and the short vol products would do well coming out of that. As we're kind of, we got kind of like this week here where it's all October and there's not very much November yet. So, and then after that, my thought would be to unwind all my VXX puts for the short term. But, and I think that's kind of how the curve is playing out. So that October is going to hang out there. It's kind of pricey. Especially what Russell alluded to. Everybody's kind of dealing with the fact, right? Because, if you're looking at Washington, you're like, whatever the cabal that's there now, okay, like them or don't like them, will be a similar cabal to if Kamala gets elected. So there's not a lot of change, right? Whether you think that's good or bad, that's kind of what it is. And I think that's sort of the reflection here. And that would weigh sizably on the October contract. Yeah, that's how I would parse all of that information. So we'll see what happens. But as of today, like talking about a pure risk asset, like vol is smoked in VXX. Like it's closing at the low of the week, and I don't know, like who Mr. VXX somebody got the memo that vol is getting trashed because it is without any doubt. So yeah, the 48 puts today, I don't think in expiring next week have not moved all day with VXX down 90 cents. So that is an impressive drubbing on that strike. Just huge. That's you gotta take what the market's giving you, and right now that's what they're giving you. They're giving you a vol smash Ola in the short term.
I hate to pick on what you're talking about right now, but that's how we learn. Do you think maybe part of No, I'm being serious. I'm being serious. You make
that's the educator in him coming out, sir. There you go.
You learn as much from things like that as you do from probably more than from the successful one. So I'm not trying to pick on you or anything, but do you think part of the issue with VXX is that steep September-October contango? And that's part, in combination of everything else that's going on.
Oh, you mean affecting, driving the ball down?
Yeah, with VXX.
I feel at this point it's more of a.
I mean, I don't trade it that much. That's why I'm asking you. So,
right. I think they're just taking the upside in the market is just freaking got annihilated. That's like upside vol. They took just a huge chunk out of it today.
Yeah.
Because the SEP volatility was trading in the 80s and today 70s at the money. So like the volatility at the money now is 69%, which is on the lower end of the scale for VXX. So, it's okay. They're saying that's fine. We'll wait till the Fed says something, but the at the money straddle is $4, 10%, which is pretty easy for VXX to do up or down in a week, 10% move. And that's where it is. So again, in my view, they're not expecting the upside surprise for volatility just got smoked for whoever gave the signal that came out today. I think because it's coming out way more than just the weekend alone would warrant. But
that's the educator in Russell coming out. It's a teachable moment, sir. I like that.
It is. Well, of course, my students will be like, why is VXX going down and my puts aren't going up? And I'm like, well, it's happening for me too.
Yeah. Why do we all have teachable moments? Why did I enter a diagonal yesterday instead of these things happen? We all screw up.
I'm the first one to say when I do things like that. So
exactly.
I admit it and I can ask the question.
There you go.
Well.
By the way, Mr. Rhoads, if you ever want a little pick me up, a little bit of a salve for the old ego,
I see it.
The chat is just loving you up today, sir. Best guess going, all this stuff. Wow. Man, I don't know.
I needed a virtual hug.
Are you spreading cash around the chat or something? I don't know what's going on.
I'm in the chat.
They are giving you the smooches, the virtual smooches out there, listeners.
I know. I'm in the chat. You would say what was going on in the chat. So your producer got me access to the chat.
There we go. That's why they love you so much. All right, let's keep on rolling. Let's see if they love some VIX options out there today, listeners. And the answer is kind of. It's a pretty decent day, all things considered, especially given where we are in the cycle. I mean, things are starting to pick up as you would expect volume-wise. We are no longer in the quote-unquote dog days of summer, at least from the options volume perspective, but you still expect things to be a little light. And we're looking pretty good out of the gate today, 685,000 contracts on the tape. That's against an ADV of just in air quotes, 1.02 million. That's down about 120,000 this week. Fed week next week, so maybe we'll see that ADV continue to tick up. But over 1 million contracts a day in VIX, that's a lot of paper. It takes really a lot of action to sustain that. So every time we get to that level, I'm always waiting for it to come back down. And we are just at the cusp right now. Will we break it next week or will Fed day? Sometimes early part of Fed week, people just sit on their hands. So we could see that ADV come in until the Fed, then all bets are off. Let's look at what's open for size out there in VIX land right now, listeners. And if you're looking at everyone's favorite indicator in the vol space, I know it, you love it, listeners. It's the top 10 in VIX options right now. We are hanging out yet again this week. 6-4 calls over puts. So there's still 4 puts in the top 10 in VIX land, which is kind of interesting. Usually that's indicative of, the higher level we were at last week when we see puts starting to creep into the top 10 like this, getting close to 50-50. Now that we've come back down, the roller coaster, as you said, coming back down, you expect some of those to be monetized, but that is not the case yet. Though a lot of these puts still open, including number 10, 248,000 of the OC 15 puts. Well, I maybe see why they haven't monetized those yet. They got a little bit of a ways to go. Number 9, 248,000 of the SEP 30s, 3 O's. And we got time. You got Fed next week, so I'm not going to poo-poo anything. It doesn't seem like the 30s are going to come to fruition, but things are wild out there. Number 8, 263,000 of the SEP 15 puts. Also interesting, clock ticking on those bad boys. Number 7, 265,000 of the SEP 16 puts. Obviously looking a little better there. Number 6, 265,000 of the NOV 35s, right back to the upside. Number 5, 291,000 of the SEP 25s, 2.5s. Number 4, 346,000 of the SEP 20s. Number 3, we got 371,000 of the SEP 17 calls. Number 2, 375,000 of the SEP 45 calls. And perhaps the biggest sea change we've seen out here in a while in the top 10. I have to really go back and look. It's been a long time since we've seen a put dominating the tape in VIX land. But that is where we are right now, listeners. The number one size position in VIX options right now, 402,000 of the SEP 17 puts. Again, that has been an eternity since we've seen a put at the top of the heap in VIX land. Also kind of giving you some indication of how aggressively we are coming back down the other side of it right now. So again, it's hard to argue with that. It's also hard to argue with a little bit of Russell's Weekly Rundown.
Now, Russell's Weekly Rundown. Now, Russell's Weekly Rundown.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Time for Russell to break down the paper. First off, Mr. Rhoads, does that surprise you that a put is at the top of the heap this week? It's been a long time since we've seen that in VIX options. And then B, what else is catching your eye in the weekly spectrum, sir?
Well, it doesn't overly shock me just because the way that the volatility market's been behaving, it looks like those that like to be short volatility are a bit more willing to be in the market, just with the term structure the way it is. September at a 23-cent premium to spot. So no, I'm not overly shocked. If you have all of those documents, like every week's top 10, I'll get students to parse that data and we can do something with that data.
We do have that going back years, yes.
How's that sound? So, all right, let's get into the weeklies. But I always have that thought when you're talking about it, and then I do the weeklies and I forget that thought. But if you have those in a document, I got a student that can pull all that data out and we can do something with it and give you credit.
I don't have one document. I have hundreds. But
that's what the students are for.
Okay, all right.
To go through hundreds of documents.
I like how you think
serious. So. Yeah. So, all right, let's get on it. So Monday. Somebody bought 2,000, and there's a pattern. I've been seeing this kind of trade every week using the weeklies when we have a weekly expiration. I don't particularly like it that much, but you can't argue with people making money. I guess I could, but somebody came out and bought 2,000 of the September 11th 20 strike puts for $1.05 with VIX at 1975 based on open interest. It was definitely an opening transaction, and it was held through settlement. The settlement value was $1.18. They made 13 cents off of that trade. I've seen these, and they've been doing okay with these. They did another one, and I say they because they always seem to be 2,000 lots. On Tuesday, they got greedy. VIX was at 1937. They bought about 2,000 of the September 11th 19 puts for 35 cents. Those of you can do quick math know that those were only worth 18 cents at settlement the next morning. So they had a 17-cent loss on that. And I'm not a big fan. I'm lukewarm on those. Here's a trade I hated that I'm not sure if I hate, but I'm still not sure if I hate it. So on Wednesday, somebody came in and bought 2,000 of the VIX September 25th, 14.5 puts for 9 cents. But with everything that's going on in the world, I do have a hard time seeing VIX under, 15. I say that, and, VIX will be at 12.5 next week.
So here we go.
But with everything going on in the world, so they bought it at 9 cents, and VIX was at 18.51 at the time. And this was a short cover. I went backwards. In fact, I think I may have talked about the entry trade on this, but it was a short cover on September 3rd with VIX at 1931. They sold those options at 27 cents each. And, looking at it, I was like, initially when I thought it was an entry trade, I was like, well, I wouldn't do that. I don't think we're going down to the to 1440 or below, even if we get, some sort of a volatility crush after next week's Fed announcement. I still, with everything else that we've got that we're facing through the end of the year, I have a hard time seeing those pay off. And they were probably thinking that when they sold them at 27 cents back on September 3rd, they got an 18-cent profit on that one. if you look at that trade, like sometimes you should look at some of these trades, and I've heard Mark Sebastian say this before, would you would you have been willing to sell those options for 9 cents earlier this week? Probably not. Definitely not now with VIX 2 points lower. So they probably did the right thing on this trade. And I did check the quotes right now, the bid side on those options, even with VIX, $1.25 or, whoa, goodness gracious, $2.25 lower. The bid side for those options is 9 cents, where they bought them back a couple of days ago. So I kind of hated that trade until I didn't. And then a trade that I do like, cheap way to get some long vol into next week, just in case the Fed says something to get the market going. Somebody did buy 1,500 of the VIX September 25th, 20 calls for 60 cents, and sold 1,500 of the September 25th, 30 calls for 15 cents. They paid 45 cents for that. Honestly, I mean, I like that trade. We're going to give Brian Overby a bit of love, even though he's nowhere within earshot right now. I almost would rather do what he had that broken week butterfly thing, man. And I almost, if you were looking for a spike, I might price something like that instead.
Yeah, I definitely like it. I liked it last time. We'll see. Maybe it's time for one again. A little nibble.
Yeah. So there, that's and I like that trade. Okay, I like the idea behind it. I'll bet you if I looked around a bit, I could find something that I like better structure wise. But I do think that you want to have something on for next week just in case.
Look at you giving Overby a little love when he's not even here on the old
not
show,
even here,
listeners.
So,
but yeah, you can't get mad at somebody for taking a trade off for a profit when you didn't even like it to begin with, right? We can't get too mad at that guy.
Right.
He took his 18 cents, got the heck out of Dodge, lives to fight another day.
They're feeling smart now, because we're within 2 points of their strike all of a sudden. So
yeah, they're feeling a lot better about themselves.
I can say I don't like it, but that doesn't mean they weren't right.
Get while the getting is good, listeners. I was just looking while the Russell was talking here at just comparing and contrasting the top OI from last week and this week. As you recall, listeners, we had a little bit of a debate last week about what was going on with this SEP 2545. That's what was dominating the tape last week. 553,000 of the 25s, 590,000 of the 45s. We kind of thought they were closing on that, but sometimes there's shenanigans behind the scenes in OI. You're switching accounts or whatever, and it looks like it's opening on both, which is, again, kind of weird. We thought they were rolling the SEP out to Nove. So if you take those off, which they are gone now, that's the SEP 45s have dropped to number 2, obviously, and they had 590,000 last week, 375,000. So that's really why the SEP 17s are at the top of the heap. They have about the same level of OI they had last week, 396 last week, 402 this week. It's just whatever was going on with those SEP 45s and 25s has been resolved a little bit. Only 291,000 of the SEP 25s open this week as well. So as I kind of thought, they were coming to close those bad boys, and it seems like the OI finally catching up with it. So I think if all was kind of really accurate last week, the SEP 17 put should have been the top of the heap as well, and that would make a heck of a lot more sense. But hey, a put top on the list in any week in VIX land these days is certainly worthy of note. Let's get out to the paper this week. Let's see if we can find anything else worthy of note, listeners. We're closing in on 700,000 contracts today, 697 right now. The big dog right now, about 53,000 of the SEP 16 puts. So puts getting some love today, as you would expect. Number 2, 51,000 of the OC 19 puts. Number 3, 48,000 of the September 18 puts. Number 4, a call sneaking in there. What's that doing there? 36,000 of the SEP 17s. And rounding out the top 5 today, 36,000 of the OC 18 puts. I love those bad boys. Keep eroding to zero. Yesterday, Thursday, 1.01 million. A weird week this week, listeners. We have 2 days. We hardly ever see this. We're 2 days back to back with exactly the same volume. That is, we had to go look a couple of times to make sure our system wasn't going crazy, but that is the case. Yesterday, 1.01 million contracts on the tape. The big dog, 70, almost 71,000 of the SEP 17 puts. So again, that gets to our friend there. They are clearly, that's the popular strike, the strike du jour out there right now. Number 2, 63,000 of the OC 19 puts. That was number 2. Number 3, 56,000 of the OC 19 calls. 19 strike. People loving it up. We talked about this yesterday on the option block. Number 4, 51,000 of the Nove 19 calls, and rounding out the top 5 yesterday, 51,000 of the Nove 19 puts. I think we had a little bit of roll action OC to Nove out there on the 19 strike. Wednesday, exact same volume, which again is weird. 1.01 million. To see that at all in the same week is crazy. To see it back-to-back days, Spooky, I think is a technical term. The big dog on Wednesday, 90,000 of the February 40s, 4-0. So that's our first dose of February on the board right now, at least for size that we've seen in a while. That's all opening, by the way. 90,000 of those bad boys. My goodness, I'll have to go look at this another leg. Usually that kind of stuff is probably a 1x5. I don't see it here in the top 5, so I'll have to go digging a little longer. Number 2, 65,000 of the SEP 30s. Number 3, 55,000 of the SEP 25s. Number 4, 54,000 of the SEP 17 puts. And the big dog on Wednesday, or the fifth biggest dog, I should say, 49,000 of the SEP 20s. So that looks like it could be a 1x2 then, because no, that's SEP 20s there. I'll have to go look. I'll have to go dig for there's another leg for the Feb on Wednesday, because if past is prologue, there is. Meanwhile, we'll keep on rolling out to Tuesday. 713,000 contracts on the tape. The big dog, 76,000 of the SEP 20s, followed by number 2, 32,000 of the SEP 19 puts. Number 3, 30,000 of the SEP 18 puts. Number 4, 29,000 of the SEP 21, so a whole bunch of SEP going up. And number 5, 27,000 of the SEP 19 calls. And then Monday, kind of the anemic day of the week, 580,000 contracts on the tape. The big dog, though, is pretty sizable, 81,000 of the OCT 21 puts. That was all opening, so folks putting on some OCT 21 puts, they're probably buying them, and looks like they're probably happy with that trade right now. Number 2, 39,000 of the OCT 20s. Number 3, 39,000 as well of that OCT 20. That's right, we talked about that on the Monday option block. Another one of those funky synthetic type trades. Number 4, 17,000 of the D16 puts, and rounding out the top 5, 17,000 of the SEP 17 puts. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, anything catching your eye out here this week? And then in VIX options, and also how many of these February 40 calls did you buy, sir?
Oh, well, thankfully none. What I would remark is options in VIX that I thought were dead have a good chance to spring back to life. Like the 16 puts actually could be, they could be worth something. Everything else on the upside is feeling dead. The market is basically going to give you the 18 call for $0.25. So as far as I would just call it the folks are putting the risk back on. Puts where that you didn't think, I think September, I think 15 might be a little too far to really make the 15s pay. But yeah, seeing some action in the 16s, 17s, a lot of action in October puts now. As far as, people buying some and seeing what's happening, some of the, that little curve creep where, the futures kind of now start to separate from the volatility with the whole term to go. And now you need sort of VIX to climb down here after the number to see what happens, is happening in the options. But for right now, most of it, I would say, is the volume seems to be risk on volume. So volatility going down over for the most part. So that's what I am noticing. So if you're buying some upside, it's as cheap as it's been in 2 or 3 weeks right now.
Sounds like you're getting on the Overbee broken wing fly train as well. Why not? It worked pretty well last time. Let's go big or go home again here on the show. That was just fun to buy it.
There.
Just to buy it in Brian's face on the show live, and he was like, "Oh man, you got it for a much better price." That's always fun, especially when it works out. Needling the co-host, always a little bit of fun. By the way, listeners, I did some digging. As I suspected, those Feb 40s were part of a 1x4, and it was the strikes, I thought, 20-40. So it went up Feb 20-40, a ratio vertical, 20,000 by 80,000 times. They did it for 90 cents. Obviously, the second leg was just too small. It fell off of our top 5 there. So it wasn't just a straight Feb 40s. As fun as that would be, it is our old 1x4 friend coming back, this time just going out to Feb. Intriguing stuff. Speaking of intriguing, let's get out to everybody's favorite. I know Mr. Dr. Bix's favorite. It's SVIX climbing that wall back up again this week. That's a good thing for everyone who's got a little SVIX in their back pocket these days. 28.10 right now, up nearly 4 points on the week. So it was down, I think, almost 7 last week. So it hasn't quite gone all the way back to where it was, but it's climbing pretty nicely out there right now. up nearly 4 points. The volume today looking pretty light, 5,500 contracts. In fact, the options volume in here has been kind of fallen off a cliff of late, which is interesting given the fact that it has been moving. The ADV was just 20-something thousand not too long ago. It was 22,000 last week, and this week it's only 16,000. So the ADV has fallen 6,000 contracts in a week, which is kind of nothing. It's a rounding error if you're VIX. If you're SVIX, that's a fair amount of your paper, nearly a quarter of your paper. So I don't know why folks are not slinging the SVIX options, but that's what we're seeing out there. But you know who's always slinging a little SVIX? It's Mr. Dr. VIX. Sir, what's catching your eye out there this week?
I thought you were going to ask me about the UVIX thing.
Not there yet. It goes in order, sir.
And to self-hire, I did sell some 27 calls, so I'm going to have I'm going to have about a third of my position called away from me today. So it is what it is. I keep trading around it. I've got my average price way, way, way down. I have decided that SVIX is going to continue to represent my long equity exposure, and I'm just going to keep shorting S&P futures against it periodically. And I got no short S&P futures right now. But those two seem to be the two that I do the best trading the swings in the market with. I was kind of shocked at the option part that you just told me. But didn't Jim tell us we're not supposed to trade options on this?
He said don't sell puts. He's probably okay with buying
don't sell
calls,
puts,
but don't sell the puts. Yeah.
And right now they own the 28 calls in October, so we can feel good about what might happen if we get a volatility spike, because they do own a bunch of the 18 calls.
Oh yeah, that keep reminding myself.
28 calls.
I need to go back and look at how they monetize the last ones around August. I keep saying I need to do that. Go do my research, and I have not. Yeah, have any of your legion of interns, have they done that research, sir?
No, I haven't had any. I haven't set anybody on that one yet, but it's the beginning of the school year, so I'm getting them.
You're getting.
I had a whole bunch of them last night that want to learn about the markets, and then, it's kind of like, you want to be a soldier? All right, let's do some boot camp. Let's get some data.
Let's go crunch some SVIX call data.
And that's when I lose 80% of them.
But that is the question, right? How they monetize those, and we know they did. Just a question about how well they did, how they took them off, if it was staggered or not. That will obviously impact this product going forward. So it's an intriguing question. People have been asking us a bit. I keep meaning to put that in my homework pile, and I keep forgetting somehow. Mr. Rocklops, you guys are out there now with your hot SVIX new product, sir. What's going on in SVIX land for you guys?
Yeah, well, it's kind of coming back. We've had some fits and starts and bumps. The liquidity in the options is still, not great.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. The options volume has fallen off a cliff for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Well, it might have something to do with the stock going from 50 to 19.
Yeah, but then it shot back up, and just in the last couple of weeks, it's come right back down again. Like, things moving. It should necessitate some options, yet they're trading.
Yeah. I mean, it should, you'd think, but, it's not. The liquidity is just okay. It's not great. Yeah, you would think you would get a little bit better action, but, yeah, I like, just even the last week, just trying to sell like VXX call spreads, which used to be pretty, very difficult. Like, normally you could trade midpoint or like a nickel through, but I mean, I probably had to put 20 cents through when I was trying to close some spreads. So it just wasn't as good as it has been in the past. So that, I would say that would be my big observation. But it is coming back. It traded as low as the mid 25s. And again, at this point now, it's kind of riding that feasting on that more expensive future, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, you could see probably 31, 32 without too much trouble. Maybe by the end of this month. So we'll see. But this is generally the part of the cycle where it should start doing a little better, especially if VIX, if it could see a handle that's a little lower next week. But see how aggressive they sell VIX next week.
Speaking of aggressive, Mr. Rhoads is always aggressive with his UVIX trade. How'd you do this weekend, Mr. Dr. VIX? And then what are you planning for this week?
Same thing again. I think I lost like 30 cents on it over the weekend. It was not a pretty situation. I did look at some in the money calls to see if maybe there was enough time value that would make sense to sell a deep in the money call because of the high volatility in that product. And I think the fund was at, gosh, I want to say 580 or something like that. And you could sell the fives for 80 cents, or maybe it was at 550 and you could sell the fives for 80 cents or something like that. But I have been poking around trying to find a better way to exit when it's not working, et cetera, and haven't been able to figure that one out. I did find your monetization on the September calls that our friends at SVIX have.
Wow.
Hit us. They I don't know what they paid for them, but they sold them at about 30 cents back on August 30th at the end of the month.
Huh.
So they didn't do it around a spike or anything, but they did get something out of them. So it's not like they're holding them till they expire with no value.
They didn't monetize anything around the big meltdown on the 5th, really?
I didn't go back to that one.
Oh,
I'd have to go. I can go back to that one
would
while
make
you
more
talk
sense.
to somebody else.
If you wait until the 30th to monetize the 5th, that would be interesting as well. But
I just started working my way backwards. And
I got you. It takes time to get there. I get you. You know what's continuing to get that said? By the way, UVIX 4.5 down nearly 2 points, 1.85, so up and then right back down again, keeping our theme alive. Interestingly though, 23,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV in UVIX though, as SVIX is dwindling, UVIX is growing. 35,000 up another 1,000. So UVIX is sub $5 now, and people are slinging more options on it. SVIX is growing this week, and they're doing less options. So there's something that I'm missing there. Let's see, really quickly, let's run through a couple others. UVXY, 24 even when we kicked off the show, probably a little bit lower now. Down 6 3/4. It was up 8 3/4 last week, so up last week, right back down again, keeping our theme alive. 46,000 contracts on the tape. Let's see if it's done any more since 56,000 now. So it's ticked up a little bit. Doesn't seem like it's going to hit its ADV of 83,000, which is down 1,000 from the week before. And then the Rock Lobster's favorite, he was just lamenting it recently. VXX 48.10 right now. So down, that puts it down almost exactly 9 points, 8.9 points. It was up 12 the week before, so it hasn't quite given it all up, but a good chunk of it up. 18,000 contracts. That was on the tape earlier today. Let's see if they've done any more. Yeah, 23,000 now. So looking a little bit more respectable. But its ADV also fallen off a little bit. 35,000, down about 2,000 out there in VXX land. But we got to get rolling, listeners. It is time to get weird. It is time to get wild. It is time for the crystal ball.
It's time to peer into the future and reveal what the volatility gods hold in store. It's time to look into the crystal ball.
All right, listeners, and coming into the end of the show, let's do a quick update. Is everything still pretty much moving the way it was? The answer is pretty much yes. A Dow up about 0.9%, S&P up still around 0.75%. NASDAQ giving up a little bit, up about 0.83 or so percent out there. And VIX cash at about a 16.27. Actually, just ticked down. Let's go to 16.24 just to make things that much more precise. And looking at our handles right now this week, it was myself, it was the Meatball, and it was Mr. Dr. VIX on the show last week. And none of us had a 16 handle, listeners. I was the closest at 1876. I had a little bit of downside. I don't think anyone really, obviously, didn't expect it to give up the ghost again this quickly, especially heading into the Fed. Russell's at a 1989. That was his winner chicken dinner from the week before, but this week, not so much. Yeah, 1876 for me, 22.22 for the Meatball, and then 1989 for Mr. Dr. VIX, who's coming off the heels of a bullseye last week. So, unfortunately, no bullseyes this week, so I'll just choose. And how about Mr. Rock Lobster? You get to go first.
You know what? I am going to say I'm going to go 14.99.
Ooh. Interesting. I'm not angry at that at all, sir. 14.99, giving up another about 1.25 out there in the cash. Can we do it, listeners? I don't know. Mr. Rhoads, coming off the heels of a successful week on the bullseye. Can you keep it up, sir? The floor is yours.
1666.
Oh,
nice evil number there.
I don't know. It's an interesting year. Is it an interesting year or interesting number, I should say, in vol, listeners? I don't know. I guess we shall find out. And then I'll bring up the rear here. I was feeling less vol last week. Obviously, not enough. They came for it again this week. Obviously, the big wild card is the Fed in the middle of the week. And then will whatever vol that happens out there, will it persist? Or will they just completely annihilate it post-Fed? And we're looking at, a crazy anemic vol landscape. Again, this is where it kind of gets into the wild card situation with the Fed. I don't hate a little bit below where I was. I'm going to say about exactly 3 points below where I was this week. I'm going to say, so about a half a point below where we are right now, 1576. So we've got Andrew going a 14 handle, which again, I think we all want him to be right. 1576 for me in the middle. And once again, Dr. VIX kicking the upside at 1666. All right, that is going to do it for us on Vol Views this week. If you're on the on-demand side enjoying the podcast, that will conclude your broadcast week with us. I want to thank you for joining us this week. Man, a hot week out there. Great stuff. 2 editions of the new show, The Futures Rundown, hitting you this week. The pro folks got both of them already. And, of course, they got an awesome pro Q&A with our buddy, Mr. Matt Amberson, who just crunches all the vol data. If you have vol questions, you folks had awesome questions. You should check that one out. Only one place to go, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, to get your hands and, indeed, your ears on that. That also gets you past the velvet rope for Options Oddities coming up after this program. And spoiler alert, you want to be checking that show out of late. It's been, shall we say, a banger. And should be a good one out there again today. So stay tuned for that. And speaking of Options Oddities, Mr. Rock Lobster, sir. If folks want to check out any of your own oddities, where should they go? What should they do?
Go to optionbit.com. You heard this show, 10% off anything. Earn while you learn is our motto. So if you want to learn how to trade all this volatility stuff, come to optionbit.com. We have been doing it. Not as quite as long as this show has been on, but darn close.
You might be as long as Vol Views, because it's been running over a decade, but I'm not sure if it's 12. Maybe it is. I'll have to go see. Sometimes, you do all these shows, they kind of lengthwise tend to.
Yeah, I think we're longer than Vol Views.
You might be longer than Vol Views. I'll have to go see. But definitely not some of the other shows, and certainly not the network. But that's a conversation for another day. Mr. VIX, Mr. Dr. VIX, Mr. VIX. Where should folks go if they want to catch up on your goodies or ask you some vol questions, or maybe just shower you with praise like our chat?
I got it on the chat today. I appreciate it. Daddy needed a boost. Thank you, guys. Now I'm gonna go hug my puppies for a while and get over a difficult week. If you want to know anything that I'm doing, just me at Twitter, RUSSELL, RHOADS. Not the news anchor down in Tampa that's got a DUI. That's not me. He spells his last name differently than me.
Not the news anchor. Go for Russell instead. I think you're going to enjoy the follow much more. Russell Rhoads. All one word on the old Twitters. The Queen coming in the chat saying 16.5. She doesn't see much change. The Queen has been eerily, some might say scarily prescient in the past. So are we looking at an unched week after all this? Yeah, could be. Get your prognostications in now if you're listening live in the chat. If you're listening after the fact on the podcast, make sure you get them in. Questions at theoptioninsider.com. Go after our social media, however you want to get them to us. Get them in today, the day the podcast goes live. Usually, unless there's a hiccup again on Apple. In which case, again, check out the network feed. It's all there. But make sure you get them in today. That way it's fair to everybody else who's playing the game. And hey, if you're within our margin of victory, you too can win fabulous prizes. It's going to do it for us for Vol Views. Go out there, enjoy your weekend. I'll be having fun on oddities for a little bit. Then back again on Monday. I'll be beaming in from the Southern Studio again next week. I'll be going down to check out the Securities Traders Association National Conference, checking out the intersection of securities and options, maybe a little bit of crypto sprinkled in there as well. So it should be a fun. I'll be down there most of the week, so should be intriguing. I'll be beaming in from the Southern Studio throughout the week, so don't worry, listeners. Your flow of content will remain unchanged, and I'll be back here again to talk to you. I'll still be in Florida, but I'll be beaming in for this time next week, talk a little bit of Volatility Views. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.